What if Padme was already married?
I told you to leave me alone. So give me some space, Bug Eye. Your breath smells like Bantha Poodoo. Ugh, what a pig. He even makes Gamorreans look classy.
I said we shouldn't even go then, but he said we'd come back and get you after we struck it rich on Tatooine. Just another one of his lies.
Don't you understand? It's too late. You're dead to me now. I don't want any more to do with you, ever.
What would happen if the senator from Naboo was already taken? What if Anakin's childhood dream was never meant to be? And what now? Having always been destined for one another, the idea of Anakin and Padme was written by the Force before either of them were ever born. Even before Anakin first set his eyes upon Padme, he had already dreamed about their meeting. And in the novelization for The Phantom Menace, when they do meet, Anakin declares aloud that he is going to marry her. One of the more major pieces of dialogue to cut, but it isn't the first time, and it won't be the last. But with this lore being held close to our minds, and the bond that they felt kept closer to our hearts, how much of the galaxy was changed because of it? And how much would change if Padme grew old before Anakin even grew up? Upon a first glance, many people would instantly jump to say the name of Palo. However, I personally would argue that their relationship has never been anything more than just that, implications. Instead, I would shift our attention fully towards another boy and another lover, and someone who directly took a kiss from Padme's lips. The very same boy who was known, named, and labeled as Ian Lagao. While he wasn't nobility, he was the son of the Prime Counselor and directly responsible for gifting aid and advice to King Varuna. Or at least he was, until the corruption from his own father became too much to bear. Becoming both infatuated with Padme and infuriated with his own family, the point was reached when the father threatened to disown his son, with the latter running from his own home straight to the royal palace, going on to confess his love to Padme. And while in George's timeline this love was rejected, with the queen-to-be going on to say that her life belonged to Naboo, here, in our timeline, this is the moment where everything is going to change. Accepting the confession told to her before telling her own tale of love and romance, their shared embrace was witnessed by the entire royal chamber, moving quickly to seal the palace and block the windows. Already old enough to marry, none of that would be allowed at this point because of Ian's own blood, connected to the very same corrupt administration that Padme was voted in to dismantle. So the only purpose behind this early romance is to set the seeds for their eventual marriage after Padme's term as queen has ended. And that is why, from here, I am able to jump all the way ahead to the very first opening scene from Episode 2. Keeping the entire Naboo invasion, the battle over Theed, and the death of Master Qui-Gon Jinn all the same, Ian would be present and a prisoner, but since none of the public would be aware of their relationship, the Confederacy wouldn't know enough to leverage him as a hostage. The only person who would be able to threaten this change is Palpatine, But since his position in the timeline is very weird, I don't think he would know at all. During Star Wars Tales 5, A Summer's Dream, Padme's coronation is shown without any mention or depiction of Palpatine. To my knowledge, there is no novel, comic, or source book that properly depicts their first meeting, how it happened, or what was said. Both of these people were born and raised on Naboo, and they both went into politics, but were never directly shown their very first interaction. Because of this, let's just assume they only met during episode 1, with the invasion being used as an excuse to bring them together. This is, of course, nothing more than my own assumptions, but Palpatine is never shown in A Summer's Dream. From here, if the assassination is still attempted on her life, with Captain Typho saving her while both Panaka and Ian stayed on Naboo, the eventual revelation of Anakin would be nothing like it once was. Still calling him by his childhood nickname and reminding him that he'll always be that little boy from Tatooine, the ring on her hand needed no explanation. Since, in our timeline, during his attempt to compete in the illegal races beneath Coruscant, Anakin stumbled across broadcasted HoloNet news with the ceremony that Padme publicly held for her marriage to Ian Lagao. Already knowing, before their reunion, that she was taken and married to another, Anakin will never make any attempt to romance her. With every future action between them going on to unfold without any flirtation or tension, their relationship will be nothing more than professional, giving Anakin and his master the foresight to act much quicker since they weren't arguing over emotions about Padme. Leaping into her bedroom early enough to catch and kill the Cahoons before they even reached her bed, the robot that delivered them was already trapped, pulled into place before shattering the window entirely as Anakin's emotion finally reached its peak. Knowing enough to hack into its cognitive central processor, but having to be reminded not to break or bust the entire thing, Zam Wesell would be unable to suit or destroy her droid in the same shape and manner like she originally did, having to retreat and flee while Padme's apartment was flooded by dozens of security officers. Anakin read databanks for what felt like hours, every line of code and embedded locations until the home of his imprisoned droid was revealed. Kolma, one of the jungle moons over Bogdan, utterly quiet and reserved by every sense of measurement, and some would say it was even irrelevant. But not the Jedi Council when, first thing in the morning, this news would be freshly delivered to them. Deciding how to proceed and dividing the Jedi duo before them, just like they originally did, our difference will sound small when I say it out loud. Anakin will escort Padme back to Naboo and her husband, while Obi-Wan will go to Kolma. This means the opening panels of Star Wars Attack of the Clones #2 will depict Obi-Wan entering the planet's atmosphere. Instead of studying the analysis rooms within the Jedi Temple, days ahead of his normal schedule, locating a man-made structure across the scanners of his own Jedi fighter, he wasted no time to park after he found a landing pad, moving even quicker on his approach to the nearest door before tentacles of slime surrounded him. One of many beasts native to Kolma, and just as deadly as anything else. Each limb was singed and sheared as Obi-Wan ignited his lightsaber, making short effort of his foe before placing even less effort to cut open the doorway in front of him. And that is when the Jedi Knight finally understood where he was, encompassed now on all sides by statues made of stone, but shaped by the dark side. Obi-Wan Kenobi had stumbled upon the isolated home of Count Dooku, or at least one of them. And luckily for him, the fallen Jedi Master wasn't home, too far off and away to protect or protest, as Obi-Wan began to search every room. As day became night with the lower levels of the castle all cleared before Obi-Wan finally reached the spire, stumbling upon the same room where Dooku kept artifacts, weapons, and mementos from the past. A small vault of lightsabers hovered at its center, swiftly known and noticed as the Jedi once far away was soon next to and upon them. While young, he was still old enough to recognize the unnamed owner of every saber he spotted, with each of them having become one with the Force during the Battle of Galadriel. Wasting no time to bust the glass that contained them before planting charges during his hasty retreat, the castle he found would be left as a crater, getting no knowledge about the Sith, but everything else he needed to know about Dooku. Only after delivering these lightsabers to the Jedi Council would Geonosis finally be named. And, of course, while all of this is going down, Anakin is the quiet third wheel on Naboo, leading Padme first to her parents' home, just as he originally did. Our change will be his refusal to enter her house, standing guard outside the doorway for the entire duration of her visit, before moving on to her own home. There and then will Anakin meet Ian Legao, and while in another age or another day he would have been jealous and angry, here he's already had over 5 years to accept Padme's marriage and move on. Greeted by a firm handshake and a friendly offer of Corellian wine, the first was accepted, while the wine was refused with a smile. And with the night they shared on Veracino taking place at the same time as Obi-Wan was destroying Dooku's castle, only the next morning would our timeline progress again, with Anakin's dream reaching their peak of passion, and the screams of his mother crying out without end, begging for anyone to save her. With Padme herself originally being the one to confront Anakin over these fears, here it's Ian Legao openly calling Anakin his brother, before telling tales of the regret he felt towards his own father, and how, if he had acted quicker against his corruption, they might still be together. So incensed would Ian be that before Anakin could even speak his desire, Ian already told him what the Jedi wanted to hear, speaking aloud that if he thought his mother was in danger, he needed to go save her. Doubling down and offering his own spaceship, his own speeder, and his own blaster, Ian went on to call for more security from Theed, knowing well enough to never wake his wife up, while hoping at the same time to be back home before she even noticed. From here, Ian and Anakin would arrive on Tatooine at the same time that Obi-Wan Kenobi began his search on Geonosis, landing in Mos Espa to question Watto before landing again later that day outside of the Lars farmstead. And from this point, Padme would be replaced entirely by Ian, first greeting the droid Anakin built in his childhood before going on to meet the Lars family, learning the fatal fate of Smee as his new friend turned silent, expelling such unspoken emotion that Ian could sense it even without the Force. He was the first to speak out in defiance, telling the family around him that Anakin was a Jedi, that he saved his own wife, and that he could save his mother too. Deploying a shared speeder from his ship, anything they did from here would be done together. No longer strangers, but brothers, bound by the respect they felt, and something that only time will be able to test. Whenever that day, and whenever that episode finally comes.